All right, let's take another question here. This is again from the Entrepreneur subreddit, which I love so much. What are your most effective networking tips to help build valuable relationships? I love this question. I'll take you back to J. Cal in the 90s. Here's what I used to do. I was broke, but I wanted to be powerful and I wanted to network. So what I would do is I would go to a conference. I didn't have a ticket. I'd hang out in the lobby, take out my laptop, and I'd work. And I'd meet people. I'd find one high-profile target, and I'd say, hey, what are you doing for dinner? And they'd say, nothing. You got plans? I'm like, no, I got a reservation for 4 or 6 people. You want to grab dinner? And I'd be like, yeah. I'm like, you want to bring anybody? So yeah, great. Now I got 3 people at dinner. Then I would take their names. I'm like, listen, I got Fred Wilson and Brad Feld coming to dinner. These are 2 venture capitalists. Then I would ask 4 entrepreneurs. I'd say, yeah, I'm having a dinner with a couple of my friends. You want to come? They'd be like, oh. And I'd be like, yeah, you know Fred Wilson or Brad Feld? So I trade their names to get the next CEOs. They'd be like, yeah, no, I've always wanted to meet him. Boom. And I remember I did this one time. I was in, maybe I shouldn't tell the story. Should I tell the story or not? Let me think. Statute of limitations gone by? Anyway, I was at Sundance because my friend David Sachs had a movie, Thank You for Smoking. My friend Elon Musk was also at Sundance because he's in the movie and I think he may have backed it. So we're all at Sundance hanging out. And Walt Mossberg was in Sundance. So I emailed Walt Mossberg and he's like, hey, let's get coffee or whatever. And I was like, yeah, come over. And I got my friend Elon Musk with me. He's like, I didn't ask to meet your friend. I was just going to have coffee with you. And he kind of admonished me just a little bit about doing this technique. It just happened to be he did it with Elon Musk, who had just invested in Tesla. And I was trying to do a favor for Elon to make sure Elon Musk met Walt Mossberg. I have the emails. This literally happened. Walt Mossberg kind of lectured me on, using my meeting with him to get a meeting for Elon, which is hilarious in hindsight. But this was my technique. That was how I built those valuable relationships. I would just host dinner and I would pay the bill. Now, again, I was broke. So here's how I do it. I would go to a Mexican joint. Mexican food, not expensive. Also, I would take this 2 or 3 person dinner and make it 8 people. Then on the way in, I'd say, don't bring menus to the table. Bring the guac and chips, bring the quesadilla, and I would just put out and bring 3 orders of fajitas and put 2 pitchers of margaritas on the table. People would come. The food would be out already. They'd start eating. Oh my God, this is great. Oh, quesadilla, love that. Now I've controlled. I didn't have everybody ordering mains. I didn't have everybody ordering appetizers. I didn't have anybody ordering their own drinks. I got the sangria. It's cheap. Put a pitcher of beer up there. Okay? And it also saves every time, so they get working. I get a $200 bill or a $150 bill from a Mexican joint for dinner for 8 with all these powerful people. I pick up the check. I'm the mensch. I was the person bringing people together. The person who brings people together gets a disproportionate amount of credit. If you introduce people to each other, you become the connector. So that was my simple technique. Going to events, hang out in the lobby, trying to leverage a dinner with 1 or 2 people who I knew, and then just trade up, socially trade up, right? Who needs to meet this person? Who do they need to meet? Boom. See if I can bring people together. The other thing I did was I started my own little magazine, which was a zine, Silicon Valley Reporter, and I made a top 100 list. Well, when you make the list of the top 100 people, boy, you're going to be powerful. You want to see me doing it today in 2019? This podcast, you're soaking in it. I've got one of the number 1 business podcasts, investing podcasts in the world. When I invite somebody on here, when my friend Tina Sharkey comes and talks about Brandley, she's going to get customers. And so's the guy from Helm who came on. Well, if I'm ever going to want to buy shares in those 2 companies, I've networked with them. I spent an hour with them talking about their business. I'm interested in them. So having a podcast is this great excuse to spend an hour with somebody. And you're showing interest in them. So if you ever read How to Make Friends, Win Friends and Influence People, whatever the Carnegie Mellon one was, or whoever wrote that book. Who wrote that book? How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read it long ago, but I think the basic, Dale Carnegie wrote it, yeah. This book, this How to Win Friends and Influence People, was pretty fundamental. People will like you if you're interested in them. So the 6 ways to make people like you: become genuinely interested in other people. You can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in them than in 2 years by making them interested in you. Smile. Pretty basic. Remember that a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Talk in terms of the other person's interest, make the other person feel important, and do so sincerely. Now, if you deploy these 6 ways to make people like you from that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the reason that book is always on the top 10 business books of all time is because it's true. If you show an interest in people, you're going to make a connection with them. The other thing that makes a connection with people is to be in a high stress or memorable experience with them. I took my team scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef. The people who went on that trip are bonded forever. We talk about it all the time. So another example of that is taking people on a hike. It doesn't have to be a dangerous one, but if it is dangerous, they're probably going to bond more. I'm not suggesting you do dangerous stuff together. But things that are peak experiences for people, they're going to bond. And if you're interested in people, it's going to go a long way. That's why podcasting is such a fascinating medium, I believe. It's because people are showing genuine interest in the other person and going really deep. And so if you look at Sam Harris, if you look at Brady Stenellis, if you look at Joe Rogan, if you look at these people who are becoming really good interviewers, and hopefully I'm in that category as well, when you become a good interviewer and you ask short questions and you listen deeply and you create a follow-up question based on the answer, that's my big technique. So when you watch the podcast, I'll ask somebody a question, and then sometimes you'll say to yourself, oh, Jason asked the same question I was thinking. That's because I'm thinking of you, my viewer, my listener, and I'm thinking, what question will you have when listening to that person's answer? So when I'm listening to an answer, I'm not thinking about my next question. I'm thinking about what question do you, the audience, have based on the answer. So I was watching this interview with George Lucas once at a benefit dinner, and they had asked me to interview him. And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then they gave somebody else the interview, and I was kind of crushed about it. But George Lucas said during the interview, and they were like, oh, and what influenced you from THX to, Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, like when I got in the car accident, that changed everything. And I kind of looked at the world a little differently. And then the person looks at their cue cards and so The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm like, whoa. George Lucas was in a car accident and it changed the way he looked at the world? You didn't ask the question everybody in the room was thinking. What? How did his thinking change? Where did this accident occur? Was anybody else in the car? What kind of car was driving? Was it a two-way road? Was it on the highway? Was there snow? Did it spin out? I mean, come on. So anyway, podcasting is the little hack. Even if your podcast only gets 500 people listening to it and it's about something incredibly niche, I would look at a podcast as a way to do 10 episodes to meet 10 people you want to and bond with them. It's a killer little hack. So anyway, great question.